Hey everybody, my name is James. I'm one of the hosts here at eduStreamTV, and today I'm super excited to be talking about what is going on with VizRT. And we are joined with Chris Burgos from VizRT. Hey Chris, how are you doing?
James, how's it going, man?
I'm doing all right. Before we get right into it, why don't you introduce yourself and a little bit of who VizRT is if our audience does not know?
Sure. I'm Chris Burgos. I've been now with VizRT, pre-merger now, a little almost 10 years. Um, we are an organization focused on live production video, streaming, all kinds of content from the very top of the food chain to major sports networks and news, all the way down to the education and even the free streaming market. We are really focused on this layer of technology that changes what you think you can do and really elevates your game at all different pieces, of production.
I think that's great. And speaking of elevating your game, I know we wanted to start off by talking about a couple case studies here. So why don't you tell us a little bit about this case study at Stratford?
So with Stratford upon Avon, we were looking at, the college was trying to look at what they were going to do to upgrade their TV facilities. And I think a lot of organizations today, when they're making that upgrade, especially educational, are saying, well, I want to make an upgrade, but I need something that's going to be also relevant to the future. And that's what the team at Stratford upon Avon was looking at. They really wanted to upgrade their radio education facility, their TV setup, and give students sort of a hybrid. They want to both experience the legacy of production as well as what's going on in the next generation. And so they worked with VizRT for the TriCaster for the live production. They're using NDI audio, NDI video and audio to sort of make their connections. And really the big sort of selling point for them was future proofing. And as we at VizRT look at it, we continue to do development on all elements of production, whether that's the audio space, whether that's the video space, whether that's our IP capabilities. And so those students are working with something that is, to their point, both allows them to work with legacy in terms of SDI, but also prepares them for the transition into IP.
You know, coming from a personal standpoint of view, I really appreciate that aspect too. Because when I was going through college, NDI was becoming more popular. We actually had a TriCaster at my college, and we also had some legacy media stuff too. And we learned, but then we were also using the cutting edge TriCaster, which is, like you said, being continually upgraded upon. And I think that it's great that the students are using the equipment. So it's not just for the school's productions, it's also a teaching experience for the students. So I think that is a really great feature.
And I always talk about this. I tell a real true story, and we'll get it to FIU in a second here. But my legacy in the organization, within my first meeting at the time New Tech, I was listening to Dr. Cross talk about NDI. So it was October of 2015 where we were developing this behind the scenes. And so you can track my time with the company the same pace at NDI's development. We released that piece. It was supposed to come out, I want to say, it was like a Christmas. We were always talking about Santa's going to bring IP and NDI to us, and then sort of we unveiled it at NAB, and it was always going to be this thing that continued to grow and grow and grow. So we got another piece of information here that I definitely want to cover, but we're going to talk about FIU right now. And here's another organization that it's a college, but we have sort of a different perspective, right? FIU was really looking at sort of their athletics department and what that meant to the video production world. And I think this is important when you're an education institution, right? Sometimes it's the TV program, sometimes it's the sports program that sort of allows you guys to both teach the students, but get the funding and make this thing happen. And with FIU, they were looking at TriCaster for switching, ThreePlay for replay. They're also using IP, but the main goal was centralize and streamline that live sports production because they have multiple venues. They wanted to eliminate the need to have to transport all the equipment from event to event. If you're a college, you know this pain very well. A lot of times these guys have a cart, it's like a golf cart. You load all the equipment on, then you got to drive it from, oh, we got to go from the stadium. Oh, we got to go to the baseball field. Oh, we have to go to the rink. Depending on the sports your college covers, it can be a lot. And obviously, that gets minimized when we can do things in IP. Here we see, we're looking at their control space, but it doesn't just have to stop at the big sports. We enhance the broadcast capabilities and get that to things like volleyball, soccer, things we wouldn't traditionally associate with major programs, because we can make that investment as a college, as a high school, and actually use it in multiple spaces. I always love that that's part of the goals of NDIs. I can do more once I have that piece.
No, I couldn't agree more, no pun intended, with NDI being able to have your video on the network and then be accessed from anywhere else on the network. I couldn't agree more. You can put a camera in each classroom if you really wanted to, but then yeah, if you want to put a couple cameras into the football field, you want to put a couple cameras into the theater. With NDI, you can route them all back to your production room, and you don't have to move your production equipment all over. NDI just makes things super, super easy. So I couldn't agree more.
And in the contemporary space, I think it gives students the opportunity to learn a lot of different tools, right? We're learning about the production. We're talking about video. We're talking about replay. These are things that have been going on for many, many years. And so there's a pace and cadence to how we teach that. But then we add the new technology element to it, and we're teaching students about IP and distribution and streaming. These are all layered in pieces that have their whole own disciplines to them. I like that it's becoming multidisciplinary in that respect. It gives students more angles to learn, and it also gives organizations more routes to incorporate new students. We might not have ever looked at somebody in the IT computing space to be part of our production team, but now, because the technology is there, these students can also be rolled in, and it's always about finding the thing that both motivates the student and works within their strengths. And so I look at what these organizations have done, and sort of we have a lot of these both in the past and coming up, where people are using us more and more, besides just for doing the TV show or doing the sports event. They're also using it as that educational tool to sort of uplift their students.
No, and I totally agree. Before we get on into some of the solutions, we're talking about students and educating the students. I want you to throw in a quick plug here for Viz University and how students can go and learn not just how to use TriCasters, but learning about, again, the basic IP, AV over IP workflows and
Mhm.
NDI, and just kind of live streaming in general. So why don't you talk about that before we talk about some of the solutions Viz offers?
So VizU is an amazing tool that covers the entire gambit of what we have as an organization. Both so as a student, you get access to this. So when your school or program purchases one of our systems, as long as you have a school email address, you have access to what we do at VizU. And it could be something as simple as how to operate the TriCaster, or something as complex as working with the arena programs, working with Viz Engine. These are the kinds of systems that they use at the very top tier of broadcast, whether that's sports, whether that's live production, news automation. As an organization, VizRT has such a wide range of different customers we serve, that learning this information, applying this information at the college level, could oftentimes get you in a position where you could work for a major broadcaster, or you could work for a major streamer. You
Mhm.
could work in a position where, today Twitch is a powerhouse, right? Being able to use something like some of our new software solutions might put you in a position to be better equipped there.
No, I couldn't agree more. And being able to offer that to students and get these certifications is a great thing that Viz offers. All right, so let's get into some of the solutions that VizRT offers. And you guys basically have an answer to every piece of the puzzle. So let's start off with the PTZ cameras that Viz offers. You guys are, like you said, you guys basically pioneered NDI. So we know that these cameras are going to be good with NDI. Why don't you tell us some of the other features with these cameras?
So when we looked at the PTZ market, we knew that we needed to offer something that was easy, especially for things like high schools and colleges. And so what we really focused on was like that one cable setup. These are PoE enabled. They can work in a power over Ethernet environment. That's important. They can also work with the new smart tracking features. This is something that we recently enabled because, as an organization, we're listening to feedback. We do get that capability to work with that high level of video, but also incorporate audio. So if you're not doing traditional if you're doing an audio over IP or not, or leveraging XLR, you can work both of those instances with the PTZ cameras. And the ease of integration is important. We get it in both black and white. We give you the plate so you can push this on whatever element you want. So you can put it hanging on the ceiling or something like that. We look at our customer base, and that's where we focus our PTZ camera. This is for those educational institutions. We sort of really looked at the use cases and said, what does a PTZ camera look like for you? That's what we designed.
Yeah, you're talking about easy integration, and you mentioned that they're PoE. And again, to re-emphasize with NDI and PoE, you can get power, video, and now audio and control all through a single cable. And I think that I just don't want to, sugarcoat that. I want to put emphasis on that all through one cable. So that is great. And since we're speaking of audio, you guys have a very cool announcement. Why don't you tell us a little bit about Viz Connect Audio?
So the Viz Connect Audio is a brand new product we just released at the time of this, and we we looked at what was changing in the audio space. So we've done a tremendous amount of NDI deployment, and in the NDI sort of encapsulation, the different data it brings along, audio has always been there. But the last year, effectively, of NDI releases have been expanding what audio does, because more and more people want to leverage NDI in every aspect. And so the Viz Connect Audio is us giving a hardware solution to solve that. So again, simple integration. It's remote capable because it has NDI bridge. So I can actually work with this in a remote environment, in a cloud environment. It has 8 channels of audio in, 4 channels of audio out, and it's designed for that same low latency that NDI does for your production flexibility. So I can, as you can see in the picture, there's a faceplate on it where I can actually, with a little monitor, I can go in and see the levels on each of the signals. I have a web UI I can use to actually control what's going on. And with that level of IP behind it, I can do some really slick stuff where I could feed it a comm line and then break that comm line out on the other side of the production. So I can have my high school team or my college team working with comms in a totally remote environment without needing like an extra server, extra service spun up in the background. So Connect Audio is really fitting into a lot more spaces than people will expect. There are tons of options in the IP space, but we know people who love the ease of NDI setup. And now we've made a device that says, hey, you're working with a traditional audio board. You have a traditional A1 setup. You can actually take that audio into the Connect Audio and excuse me, into the Viz Connect Audio and now distribute that over the NDI network just as easy as we do video. So this is going to be a major game changer, especially now that it's out in the wild for people who want to expand their video capabilities and their audio capabilities and mix and match those.
Yeah, you mentioned earlier that 2015-ish is when NDI came out, and that you are constantly paving new roads with what you can do with AV over IP. And now we got to put emphasis on the A in AV over IP. And I think that this is a perfect example of VizRT's commitment to AV over IP and pioneering the road. So next, I wanted to talk about the TriCaster family. And the great thing about the TriCasters is there really is a TriCaster for every workflow, every budget, every amount of cameras that you need, every amount of MEs, layers that you need, inputs. It doesn't matter. So why don't you tell us about the TriCaster family?
Yeah, so if you're unfamiliar with VizRT and this is your first time, working with us, the TriCaster is really the cornerstone of what we do as an organization. This is your all-in-one live production environment where this is a hardware or software solution, because we're now offering it both in the cloud and in other forms, and we'll talk about in a little bit, that allows you to take in multiple cameras, produce multiple feeds, so I can stream, I can record, I can actually do, like, for instance, what we're doing on our environment here, you could produce a feed for a call-in platform like Teams or Zoom. You have audio capabilities, you have video playback capabilities. There is a lot of density of what a TriCaster enables. And this is all that one live switching environment, but it is so powerful and there's so many tools underneath the hood. And I think of something like, the flexibility of scalable, which in our case is a TriCaster may have 8 inputs, but in an IP world, you could easily swap camera 7 that's in a boardroom to camera 7 that's on a field. You're never
Yep.
really locked into just the physicality of it. And that is sort of the next level that what we do from a live production space is it's the option you want is always there. You can never really ask a question of a TriCaster that it can't do because we really load these things with so many features. And James, to your point before, we have so many different options. We have things that are totally software, both now accessible locally or in the cloud, and we have a whole wealth of different systems going up the chain, all the way up to a 44 channel system.
You mentioned that, yes, we are using a TriCaster TC1 Pro in our studio, and we're using an NDI PTZ camera here. We're using NDI to extract the Teams call to get you into this box here, and we're also using NDI screen capture to get the PowerPoint into this box up here. So yeah, this entire show is being operated with a TriCaster and NDI. So yeah, we're big fans of the TriCasters, and it is really the sky's the limit. This is a fairly simple layout that we're doing, but you can do way more complex things with this. And I'll give one more shout out to VizRT. We're actually using VizFlowix for our graphics too. So whenever a lower third comes up, that is done all through VizFlow. It's super customizable and very easy to pick up. Now, we were talking about how the VizRT family also has products for sports production, and of course, that would include instant replay. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the ThreePlay systems?
So the ThreePlay is prior to coming to Viz and New Tech, one of the ways I cut my teeth in the field. I did a lot of sports, and what your ThreePlay gives you in a single solution is ease of use, multiple channels of recording. I can play back angles very easily. So even when I take a recorded clip, like I make a replay on a given angle, in a ThreePlay, I can actually switch those angles in the playout. And all of this is easily driven by the control surface. It is so slick and simple to leverage when you're actually working in a production. And then the last piece that I really look at from an ease of production space is the ability to tag. Coming from the environment where we had to hit a keyboard and change all the elements of, let's put the player's name, let's put the player's jersey. This all took a lot of time. Now with the tagging system, I'm able to really quickly append, what the play was, what time it happened. And even a high school student who's never touched the sports before can operate a ThreePlay. And then the last piece that makes it unique harkens back to what we do in live production as sort of the people in TriCaster and other parts of the production. You actually have the capability to use it like a basic switcher in the background. It can operate in a flexible output configuration where output A is doing something in output B, and I can actually make a transition and have them bounce between 1 and 2. So my operators could do something like queue playlist and set up a secondary playlist and actually throw like an animation, maybe the school's logo, in between the two and operate on a single output. Or I could have those two outputs playing to your production truck in any capacity. So ThreePlay builds upon what we do in IP and video production and incorporates a lot of cool elements that I think once you're in front of it, you can really gain an appreciation for how it can elevate your game. And for high schools and colleges, I think people think that the bar is really low for what you guys can produce, but these tools allow you to operate the same way some of the largest organizations do and have that really fine polish to your production.
I couldn't agree more. And we keep alluding to this, when a high school or a college gets something like a ThreePlay and they let the students use it, if they do decide to go into a career in sports production, this is going to be the equipment that they're using when they're working for ESPN or whatever sports production company is out there. And so it's great in the school. And again, you offer these classes on the ThreePlay system too. Like, yes, sometimes it can seem overwhelming at first, but Viz goes the extra mile to give you VizU, and I think it's just great. Now, we mentioned that there are TriCasters for every budget and every workflow. You guys have some new and exciting products that are available, including the TriCaster Vision, and we'll get into the TriCaster Mini S as well. The TriCaster Vision is your new flagship TriCaster. It's super customizable, and it's a real powerhouse. You want to talk about that for a little bit?
So the Vision is the new flagship for what we do at Vizrt, and I think it really provides a unique angle for live production in a couple ways. First, it's got 44 input channels. It's 44 4K channels. All of the feeds it produces are available in IP, so we produce them in NDI. So it's got 8 output channels. It's got 3 stream encoders. And the biggest, coolest thing with what we do in the Vision is that we're finally bringing some of these AI tools into what is happening in the production space. Now, no need to fear, it's not taking anyone's jobs away. It's actually really slick. It has automatic gaze correction, which would mean that as long as you're, contributor coming into something like a Teams or Zoom call, as long as their face is anywhere in front of the camera, it will automatically redraw their eyes so that they're looking directly at the camera. On the production side, it can seem a little weird, but for the viewer at home, it just looks like the person is always engaged, always talking with it. It's a really slick tool. The other thing we're doing is allowing for a specialized keyer. So for instance, I'm at my home office, but with the Vision, with the AI keyer, you could brand me with a bunch of Viz logos behind me. When traditionally we would use that in a green screen environment, now with the AI keyer, we have that capability. We talked about it here. Now VizFlowX is being really ubiquitous. VizFlowX actually comes with the Vision, so you get a license of VizFlowX for a time frame on the Vision, and this is really important because Flowx is super customizable, easy to use, and it's all web driven. I don't need a separate program. I can create my graphics, I can operate my graphics, and with something like the Vision or your guys' TriCaster, I can actually go either way where the TriCaster can trigger the graphics, or we could have the Flowx operator trigger the graphics on either side. So ease of use and production is paramount. And then this is the first time that we offer a TriCaster in flexible models. We're offering it in a 0 SDI configuration for people who are really, really deep into IP. We offer it up to a 16 base SDI configuration, so people who have a much more traditional workflow. And we're always doing that hybrid in between. And so the Vision sort of marches forward on the same path we have been going with different changes in what's happening in the world from a production perspective. Those needs are growing, and we designed the Vision to meet those needs of today. So that's at the very top tier. But I am in love with the Vision, and I have access to one in a rack that I do because I'm very much about doing the remote production, doing those sort of cloud productions. But the Vision is a really sweet machine that I think people are going to get more out of it than they would expect.
No, I couldn't agree. I think everything that you just said can be summarized in it's a true powerhouse. The TriCaster Vision is totally customizable to whatever workflow you need. Like you said, you can be IP, you can be SDI, you can be a little bit of both. It doesn't matter. The TriCaster Vision is a great solution. Now, on kind of the other end of the spectrum, we also have the TriCaster Mini S, which is just the TriCaster software that you can put onto a computer or a laptop. There are certified computers that you can put this on. And this is also very new and exciting for VizRT. Why don't you tell us a little bit about TriCaster Mini S?
So we're talking about education, and we're on all sides of what production can do. Mini S is that first offering for full 4K production, the ability to put this on a laptop or a desktop. James, you pointed out astutely that we have some certified machines. There's integrated graphics capabilities, and we're actually bringing some of the features from some of the higher end products down into the Mini with some AI enhanced audio capabilities. This all is part of the new initiative that we want anybody working with us, whether they are at a basic level just coming into video production, or they're at the very top level to be interoperable. We want somebody whose first experience is a Mini S to be able to grow all the way to a Vision or all the way to a Vector in the cloud. And so what we're seeing now in Mini S is that ease of use, ease of entry point, right? I can get in on a simple subscription, or I can pay up for that upfront license, and I now have the full production powerhouse of a TriCaster on something that I can deploy in my backpack. And I really think this is going to change the game in a lot of respects, because a lot of people have been using software driven systems, especially in the last 5 years. They're using something that they probably use for free and they started their business with that. But we are elevating the game by giving you the full TriCaster capability in that live production.
No, I think that's great. You know, we talked about earlier today being able to go anywhere on campus. And it's great that, yeah, you have the ability to have NDI anywhere, but then to also, you know, pick up a small desktop M4250 switch, putting TriCaster Mini S on your laptop. Now you can have an NDI network anywhere you go. And like you said, it will fit into a backpack. So I think the TriCaster Mini S is just a great solution for schools in particular. Chris, I want to say thank you so much for joining us. If our viewers have any questions, want more information on pricing or picking the right TriCaster or the right PTZ camera for your school, absolutely feel free to give us a call at 800-323-2325. We have a network of local integrators that we can get you in contact with. So absolutely give us a call at 800-323-2325. Chris, I kind of like to take this from Gary. I like that when we have a guest on, we always give the guest the last word. So if there's anything that you want to say to our audience about VizRT and the education market, the floor is yours.
I think if you are looking to get a new system and work with an organization that is elevating what's capable, helping your students get uh, ahead of the game, both educationally, but also maybe in the workplace, finding a job. I can speak to this directly. I learned TriCaster in college, and that allowed me to work almost right away. And I worked with a lot of organizations, like I was able to work with USTA Tennis. I was able to work for sports leagues. If you wanted to give your students the best bet to graduate and have an opportunity, working with VizRT is one that you can bank on. And it both sings personally to me, but with so many schools we're working with today. So if you're going to spend $1 and you're looking at, well, what do I get out of this? Beyond just the technology, VizRT is giving students the capability to go and pursue careers.
I think that is well said. Chris, again, thank you so much for joining us. To our viewers, stay tuned for more content coming up next. Thanks.